Lunchly versus Lunchable.
School lunches in America have just always been notoriously hideous, just beyond bad, absolutely terrible. The Lunchable was the very, very lowest form of lunch in an already terrible school lunch system.
22 grams of sugar.
10 grams of sugar.
7 grams of protein.
9 grams of protein.
We're also 30 less calories, 3 less grams of fat, and 8 less grams of sugar.
Of course, you have a lot of numbers here. They have a little bit higher protein, a little bit lower sugar. It all sounds good, but what does it all mean, right?
It's comparative absolution. You compare yourself to something that's abject garbage, and you're like, boom, we destroyed this product.
I looked at it in our app. Maybe you can argue that it scores a little bit less bad, but it's still atrociously low, right? It scores... Today we're going to talk about a hot social media topic, Lunchly boxes. These boxes by Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, KSI. What do you say, Tad? What are your thoughts?
Wow, okay, so first of all, probably there in Sweden, you're not subjected to all of this crap. When I was growing up, I remember Lunchables coming out, and this was just notoriously a terrible product. Just the bottom of the barrel of nutrition. So now we've got Lunchly, right? It has to be an improvement. Their whole campaign seems to me to be Lunchly is better than Lunchables.
22 grams of sugar.
10 grams of sugar.
7 grams of protein.
9 grams of protein.
We're also 30 less calories, 3 less grams of fat, and 8 less grams of sugar. Turkey.
Of course, you have a lot of numbers here. They are picking out some numbers. They have a little bit higher protein, a little bit lower sugar. It all sounds good. But what does it all mean, right?
Right. I mean, which metrics did they pick and why? We're assuming those are the only ones that they were better at. In engineering, we call it negative benchmarking. So you take something that's really terrible and set that as the benchmark because then you're going to be better. You can't not be better.
Very low bar. Yeah, very low bar. So they're comparing their products on their website, and you have these turkey stackums, same low protein basically. Because the calories are lower, you get a slightly higher percentage. So the Lunchly turkey has 18% protein and the Lunchables has 14% protein.
These are just tragically low. I mean, probably around the standard American diet or even slightly higher, which is directionally okay, but still just overall bad, way too low.
This is actually the one that scores the highest in our satiety system. It scores all the way up to 19 out of 100.
If we consider the standard American diet, which is absolutely terrible, is upper 20s on the Hava score, and these are teens. This is terrible.
I mean, the Lunchables scores 13, so yeah, slightly less bad. They're only the second worst thing your kid could have for lunch.
Right. It is a microscopic improvement. And they're exhibiting classic asymmetric dominance. It's like, here's Lunchables, and we just completely dominated them.
Moving on to the pizza, it actually scores 10. So they both score about 14% protein. Yeah, a ton of carbs and fat, obviously.
When the sugar is equal to the protein, that's bad. You know that's problematic.
At least in our system, this actually outperformed Lunchables and made it even worse. With the nachos, it scored 13 out of 100 versus the Lunchables that actually managed to get a 6, which is kind of at the level of cookies and cake and stuff like that.
Right. And again, the fallacy is at least it's not, Lunchables. Look how much better it is than Lunchables. 9 grams of protein versus 7. Like, I literally heard Mr. Beast bragging about those numbers.
7 grams of protein.
9 grams of protein.
It's 10% protein. That's sort of smack in the middle of the worst ultra-processed fast food garbage in the nation, right?
Yeah, and if this was the pharmaceutical industry, it'd be like, this is, 30% more protein than Lunchables. It's massive improvement.
Oh, wow, 30% more. Wow, yeah. It's because the Lunchables are down at 6% protein. That's like virtually protein-free, right?
It's just such a small improvement. It's just disturbing. If Lunchables is the bar, a lot of stuff is looking good.
I like my cheese drippy, bruh.
This is molded. That's mold. This is not safe.
I like my cheese moldy, bruh, is what people are saying.
Okay, lots of people finding mold.
This one I'm going to actually leave alone because, the fact that it can mold is probably good. Like, you actually want food that needs to be refrigerated and can spoil, and real food goes moldy. And the mold might be way too smart to grow on a Lunchable. Like, you might have a Lunchable from, 50 years ago just sitting out like that Big Mac and fries that's just like petrified and nothing ever grew on it. The potential for growing mold could be a really good thing. There is some real cheese in there.
At least the mold likes it, so that there is some nutrition in there, obviously.
Yeah, obviously they're working out some manufacturing bugs. There's good and bad here. I see this as kind of a lateral thing.
Okay, so good and bad.
That's delicioso right there. That's Riz approved.
I do think that this might illustrate the problem that we get into when we choose foods based strictly on what's the most delicious. I feel like some of my patients get to this point where everything they eat has to be just 10 out of 10 delicious. It has to be the most mind-blowing thing they've ever eaten. The reaction here is just based totally on how it tastes, which is cool, but definitely not going to get you exactly where you want to be nutritionally.
I mean, I don't think we should expect more from a child, right? But from people like Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, KSI, I mean, are they just saying, oh, it's a little bit better than Lunchables, so it's fine to make a truckload of money on this? But I don't know if that's fair, because are they only going to sell this to people who would have bought Lunchables anyways? Or because they're so popular, right, they are going to get more kids to start having this kind of stuff for lunch? Isn't that likely?
It's disgusting. I mean, it's absolutely terrible. When you think about the fact that this could be a third of the daily intake for these grade school age kids, you're definitely not getting a third of your daily needs from this product. One thing that I have to admit, there is less sugar in the Lunchly than the Lunchables. I'm going to give that to them.
That's fine, but the chocolate bar, should you really make it normal for kids to have chocolate with lunch every day? I mean, it's already bad, and then you add chocolate on top of the bad stuff. You put these cheap ingredients, cheap and nutritionally very substandard ingredients together in a way that makes it hard to stop eating it. And then you teach our kids to start eating these foods for every meal, and then they are for life sort of used to that kind of food, and then they're setting themselves up for obesity and metabolic disease and eventually diabetes and heart disease and cancer and dementia and death far, far sooner than they should have had it, maybe 20 years earlier in their life. It's pretty sad. I mean, if nothing changes, that's pretty likely, right?
It's terrible. You're absolutely right. I feel like they do care a little bit about nutrition, and they know enough about nutrition to make these comparisons, but they're morally and ethically giving themselves this absolution because it's better than Lunchables. They're like, we've actually made something that's healthier, full stop. It has half the sugar. And they're not wrong, but it's so little of an improvement. I mean, they could have really, really changed the game. They had an opportunity to make it cool to eat something that was super high in protein and super high in fiber and super high in potassium. Imagine Lunchly Pro or Lunchly Sport, and it's got like this crazy high protein percentage and tons of fiber and just tons of potassium. And then you have like these ripped and jacked athletes going out of their way to have Lunchly Pro, and look at the results they're getting and look at how much just pure nutrition is in here.
That would be so cool. But I suppose it would be more than $4 then. It would be like $5, $6, $7 maybe.
It would be maybe even twice as expensive. And I'm going to argue that it's probably worth it if we're not throwing at least a little bit more money at our kids' nutrition. Then what are we doing? You could make these cool. You could make these a household name. You could open everybody's eyes to this, and kids would actually pressure their parents to pay more to buy the Lunchly Pro and the Lunchly Sport and the Lunchly Alpha and the Lunchly Elite. You could make it so cool. Mr. Beast could have done something way better here. He had an opportunity here to really change the landscape.
Well, maybe they can still do that. He knows, I suppose, how to make money. He's a good businessman. He's a smart guy, a good entrepreneur. I'm sure tons of people, not just a few enlightened parents, would buy this twice as expensive, really, really quality stuff, right? Instead, he can sell to 10 times more people at the same profit margin, so he makes 10 times more money, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to hope that that's possible. It's very complicated for people in general, even for me, if I'm being completely honest, to look at this at a quick glance, see how good or bad is it? But if you see these boxes and they always highlight whatever seems the best. Oh, it's, these and these many grams of protein, and here's how much electrolytes we have, and it's so great. I think it just shows how there is a need for just being able to scan a product, take a picture of it, and get a simple summary of how good or bad is it. And I think that's what we're trying to build with our app, right? Trying to make it ultra simple. I think that would be really, really helpful for anybody who's standing in the supermarket wondering, how good or bad is this really? Scan the barcode or take a picture and get a number.
Yeah, I agree. And it really pulls back the curtain on the real story when the front of packaging just says, 20 grams of protein in this candy bar. And then you're like, okay, but its score is 15. It's an easy way to really get the big picture on, is this going to take me closer or farther away from my goals?
So if anybody's interested in that, they can just download the Hava app. It's free to use for this. They can just check any product.
Yeah, check out the Lunchly in the Hava app.
Yeah, basically, they should probably avoid all of them. But, if they really, really have to pick one, they can see which is the least awful. This was interesting. No Lunchly boxes at your home. What do you eat instead?
So I do eat things that can grow mold, but it's basically non-fat Greek yogurt, a low-fat cottage cheese. For, a side, I'm eating apples, carrots, something with a lot of soluble fiber, something with a lot of weight and volume for a few calories. So it's target protein, low energy density carbs and fats, and make it tasty, but not mind-blowingly hedonic. It might not be RIS approved, but it's taking me closer to my goals and pretty good.